Great.
Okay, so welcome back. So we've been talking about all the different areas of your human design in order to understand the overall energy of your design. So we've looked at profile, authority, type, etc. One of the biggest aspects of human design when we think about energy is the centers. And I like to call them the energetic centers because each of the centers holds within it its own energy, frequency, vibration, and we can fall into either the light side of that vibration, the yin of that side of the vibration or energy of that center, or we can fall into the shadow aspects of that, or the yang in human design. And it's really important to understand where you are in terms of your centers. How do we start to look at centers? Well, a really important aspect for you to look at in terms of the centers is to see, is the center open? Is it undefined, or is it defined? Because if you have an open or undefined center, you are more susceptible to be conditioned in that center, which means that you're receiving information, ideas from outside, from the external, and that could be from your peers, from your parents, from your teachers, your upbringing, society, Instagram, all of that, and you take it in like a sponge and you amplify it, which means that it grows bigger in that area. So the energy grows bigger of that conditioning, and you start to believe that it's your own when it's not. So one of the important things to remember in the centers is to ask yourself the question, is this mine or is this somebody else's? If you have an open or undefined center, in terms of energy, what does that feel like? It feels sometimes like you can't seem to grasp if this is right for you, if this is true, if this is sure. There's confusion there because of the outside conditioning. It's kind of like a funnel, and you're collecting all of this information from outside, and often it can make you feel like it's yours when it's not yours. So I would always ask the question, is this mine or somebody else's? And we'll go through the centers briefly now in a second. If you have definition in your center, so it's colored in, it's defined, it means that you have more solidity in that center. You have more truth and knowingness in that center, and you can already feel what that might feel like as a frequency or a vibration. It feels much calmer. When we think about an open or undefined center, it can be like up and down. The frequency is changing. We can feel lower aspects, lower frequencies of that center, and we can also feel the high aspects, but maybe that's not our energy. We're just making it bigger. We're amplifying it in the openness. Whereas when it's defined, it can feel more solidity, more calm, more truth. We understand it. We get it. We're like, this is me. I can feel this is me. You know, it's more predictable. It's a more predictable energy. Okay. So when you look at all of the centers, ask yourself the question, you know, is this mine or somebody else's? If you have an open head center, for example, perfect example of some chaotic energy that might happen in an open head center, because you're collecting all of these ideas, all of these voices, all of these things that you're hearing in the outside world is growing bigger in that open head center. You're getting a lot of mind chatter, and you start to think, you attach yourself to those ideas, thoughts, mind chatter, and you start to think that it's yours, and you get completely enthralled in all of that chatter, and you start to analyze it, and you start to change things in your life because of this mind chatter, or you judge yourself because of the mind chatter. And if you do have an open head center, do meditate. It's the best thing you can do to release yourself from all the mind chatter. But if you think about having solidity in a head center, in the head center, then you know what's true for you, and you know if those thoughts are yours. You know, it's more predictable. It's a more predictable energy. Okay, briefly, let's have a look at the centers. I'm going to pull up, here we go. This is from Jovian Archive. I've probably mentioned Jovian Archive already. It is source material on Jovian Archive, which means that the material is coming from Ra Uru Hu, or people who worked with Ra Uru Hu, the founder of Human Design. So it's a great place to go. Lots of free resources if you're interested. So the different centers, we've got 9 of them. The head center, the ajna, the throat, the G center, identity center, heart center or ego center, solar plexus, sacral, root, and spleen. So every one of these has different energetics, like we've just mentioned, the head center. And if it's colored in, defined, you have more predictability, a calmness, a sense of truth in that center. When it's open, you don't. When it's open, you're collecting, conditioning information from outside, and it's growing bigger in you, and then you're feeling that maybe you should do something with that energy or information. And oftentimes you shouldn't. You've just taken it in from outside. Okay. So if we look at this, for example, I hope you can see this. The open centers, the not self themes of the open centers. If we look at this, we can start to understand, if I have this center open, what are the types of energetics that I might be feeling? So we've said about the head, thinking about things that don't matter, mind chatter, aimless mind chatter. And when we attach ourselves to the mind chatter, we waste energy. We start to believe things that are not true about ourselves. We start to judge ourselves. Where if we look at, for example, the G center, here it says fixated on finding love and direction. What I see people with the G center, if they have it open, they struggle to answer the question, who am I? And they are endlessly searching. And often they think that there's somebody when they're not. It's actually conditioning from outside. There's a lot of like searching for a sense of meaning of life and direction. And if we think about the energetics of that, when it's defined, it's a true sense of knowingness. Can you feel the energetics of that, of you knowing when something is true and how that feels in terms of energy, and when something you don't know because there's so much information, it feels like more chaotic, right? And if we start to think about how is that creating a different energy throughout your whole system as a human being, we can see if we have lots of open centers, for example, if you're a projector or a reflector or a manifestor, or perhaps you're a generator and you just have a lot of open centers, it can create quite a lot of unknowingness and searching for truth. And is it going to be like that forever? No, it's just an awareness that needs to happen about, where am I wasting energy because I have an open center? For example, the head, where am I wasting energy thinking about things that don't matter? And how then can I utilize my understanding that I'm wasting energy here to give myself some energy back? Well, I'm going to ask myself the question, is this mine or someone else's? And how can I bring myself back to center? Doing things like meditation, having the awareness and stopping the mind chatter, escaping the mind chatter, okay? So that's what to look for in terms of your centers. If you can now, pull up your chart, have a look at the centers, perhaps rewind this a little bit, have a look at those centers and the different themes, and start to notice how that perhaps could be affecting your energy in your day-to-day, in your business, and we'll move on to the next thing.